The Idaho Environmental Health Program would like to raise awareness about lead exposure from antiques and vintage items. Antiquing enthusiasts can be exposed to lead when handling or refurbishing vintage and antique items. But before we discuss how lead can harm collectors specifically, let's talk about lead and how it's dangerous for everyone. Lead is a naturally occurring element that can be found in the air, soil, water, and even inside our homes. Human exposure comes from the use of fossil fuels, past use of leaded gasoline, some industrial facilities, and past use of lead-based paint. While lead poisoning is serious for everyone, it affects children more than adults. Additionally, children and babies are more likely to be affected because they put objects that may have been exposed to lead into their mouths. Adults, especially pregnant women and their developing babies, are also vulnerable to the effects of lead poisoning. While most adults are exposed to lead in the workplace, there are some hobbies where lead exposure is a risk, such as ceramics, stained glass making, target shooting, and certain folk remedies. Symptoms to look out for if you believe you've been exposed to lead include tiredness, weakness, irritability, trouble sleeping, headache, loss of appetite, nausea, and difficulty concentrating. If left untreated, lead poisoning can have serious effects on both children and adults. There are simple things you can do to lower your chance of exposure. Inspect and maintain painted surfaces to prevent paint deterioration. Address water damage quickly and completely. Clean around painted areas where friction can generate dust, such as doors, windows, and drawers. Flush water outlets used for drinking or food prep. And clean faucet aerators on a regular basis. Even eating well-balanced meals can help your body absorb less lead. Additionally, if you are doing any home renovations, ensure your contractor is lead-safe certified and that they follow lead-safe work practices. It's important to note that a blood lead test is the only way to find out if an individual has lead poisoning. Children's blood lead levels should be tested by their healthcare provider. Remember, there's no safe level of lead in your body. Because many of the symptoms of lead poisoning can be misdiagnosed or missed altogether, it's imperative to lower your chances of exposure. Now that you have a basic understanding about lead and its harmful effects, we can dive into lead as it pertains to antiquing and collecting antique and vintage items. There are certain vintage and antique items that are more likely to contain lead. Specific items to be more wary of include building materials and furniture with chipped or distressed paint, window or picture frames, bed frames, ceramics, pottery, crystalware, dishware, glassware, toys, jewelry, brass or pewter items, and salvage faucets or fixtures, especially if they are made of brass and chrome. Because lead from antique ceramics, glassware, dishware, or leaded crystalware can leach into food or drinks, avoid eating or drinking out of those antique items. Unless you are certain your antiques do not contain lead, do not use them for storage of food or beverages. You can test your antique items for lead by submitting a sample to a certified laboratory, using an X-ray fluorescent device, or by using a lead test kit. Because children and pregnant women are more sensitive to the effects of lead poisoning, special precautions should be taken to prevent them from being exposed. Keep children away from antique furniture and decor with chipped or peeling paint, unless you are certain the items are lead-free. Consider displaying antique items such as trinkets, jewelry, toys, and tools out of children's reach. Items used for viewing only are generally less of a risk, but still be sure to clean them lightly with a damp cloth or a vacuum with a HEPA filter. Transport antique or vintage items wrapped in plastic sheeting. This helps prevent the release of dust and debris. If you plan on refurbishing or sealing an item that may contain lead paint, there are ways to prevent or seriously reduce the chance of lead exposure. Protect yourself by wearing safety glasses, a HEPA desk mask, and protective clothing, like coveralls that can be discarded or washed separately from your other clothing. Do not dry scrape or sand surfaces. Instead, spray water on the surface first to help control dust and debris. Do not use a power sander. This can lead to a higher risk of contamination. Consider applying a sealant on finished antique items to minimize the release of lead, dust, and debris. If possible, ensure your work area is separate from your home. If that's not an option, do your best to separate the areas with plastic sheeting. Wash your hands with soap and water or clean them with lead decontamination wipes after leaving the work area and before eating or drinking. Clean your workspace often. Collect paint chips and use a wet towel to pick up dust and make sure to dispose of the contaminated materials in a sealed trash bag. Remember, there's no safe level of lead in your body. Take all necessary precautions to ensure your safety while enjoying your hobby. For additional resources about lead poisoning with respect to antiques and other recreational activities, please click the link in the comments below.